Oh my god, it's been a hot minute since I had a sit down video. I was not there. Even if I was, I have forgotten. Some people actually don't like you. Hey guys! Oh my god, it's been a hot minute since I had a sit down video. I'm currently trying to record some sit down videos, like to batch create, because yeah, I have the time today, and today was the day actually scheduled for this. So I want to do some sit down video, but I need to get dressed for that. Not like dressed, more like, put my face in order. This is me just out of the bathroom, and my face is very dry. The water here makes our faces, I don't know for other people, but it makes my face particularly very dry, and that's why I like to moisturize all the time. So while I do my makeup, I would like to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the lessons that I've learned over the course of my 9 to 5, my corporate career. So I don't know how we're going to talk about it. I don't know how we're going to title this, whether it's get ready with me while I talk to you as a big sis, or get ready with me while I give you some life advice, corporate edition. I don't know. You be the judge of that. But yeah, get ready with me while I just talk about the lessons I've learned from work. Now, one of the reasons why I decided to sit here and talk about these things, not necessarily because I think you don't know this. I think you probably do, but you just don't recognize it. Do you get? Until it happens to you, or even maybe you don't even know. And I wouldn't say these are the things that I wish I knew when I was younger. Excuse me, I'm still very much younger. I'm still a young chap. I'm still a young girl, but I'm just saying that there are things that I wish I recognized, or I wish I practiced a little bit earlier on in my career. Just a little bit of a background on me. I started working officially in a corporate environment here in Germany. So when I was in Nigeria, I worked a little bit as a translator, and I did some other things. But I wouldn't really call that corporate work, because I was mostly going to the sites and I was helping the Chinese guys translate, right? I'm using glycolic acid on my face. I want to wipe down a bit. I did a little bit of translation work in Nigeria, and it wasn't really like a formal thing. I mean, we didn't sign contracts, but each month I got paid. It was just here and there, so to say, right? And so when I was in China too, I didn't really do corporates like that. We were not allowed to work while in school. And so the very first official experience I had at work was here in Germany. And my first job, I was working as a working student in the people operations team. It was great. I mean, the people were lovely, everything was there. But I see how I am now at work and how I was before. I'm trying to compare the differences, the things I've learned so far, and the things that in retrospect I'm like, okay, this makes sense. Stay with me. This makes sense. So a little bit of context. I started a new job about 2 weeks ago. At the time I'm shooting this video, I don't know when this video is going to be out, to be very honest. I started a new job about 2 weeks ago, and the energy with which I'm joining this new company, with which I'm starting, even the energy I'm receiving from my colleagues as well, is amazing. And let's talk about from my own perspective now, because that's the only thing that I kind of can control. From my own perspective, I found out that, or the way I am here in this new place, completely different from how I was when I first joined my first company in Germany, like the first company I worked with in Germany, or even the second company I worked with in Germany. Here is completely different, probably because I don't know, it's just the energy is just so different. It feels very fresh. It feels like I've done this before. It feels like, I don't know, it feels familiar, so to speak, and it's very easy for me to warm up to my colleagues, very easy for me to they're very likable people, and they're very warm, they're very nice. And actually, it was one of the reasons why I joined the company, to be very honest, because I felt like I was lacking love. I felt I was lacking corporate love. So I needed that warmth, and they've been giving me tons and tons and tons of it. So it's a very healthy environment for me. Anyways, back to the topic of today. Let me put on some toner. I hear you're not supposed to put toner on cotton pads and wipe your face. You have to put it on your hands so that it doesn't waste. So that's basically what I'm doing. The kind of things you learn on TikTok. By the way, if you're not on TikTok, hop on it, because they share a lot of information there. However, don't let it suck you, because you begin to spend a lot of time there. It's very addictive. Back to the topic. So first things first, number one on my list of tips, I had things written anyways. Number one on the list of tips I would like to give you is, you should recognize that this is work, it's not your personality. a lot of times we tend to unconsciously tie our job to our personality. We think, oh, because I do this, this is who I am, right? For instance, personally, I work in the people team. I work as an HR person. So in the HR department, that's what you used to recognize it. But in my current company, we call it the people team. Up in the people team. And so in the course of my work, I do a lot of things that involve me reaching out to employees, talking with employees. I mean, being the first point of contact after the employees have been hired, and so on and so forth. But this is not just the people facing role. I also do like a lot of admin work, a lot of things that have to do with legal side, in some cases payroll, so on and so forth. However, I realized that when a mistake is done, or when I make a mistake, it feels as if, oh, this is me, this is who I am, that kind of a thing. I had to consciously start letting go of that, like start separating myself from my work. And I think we don't do this intentionally. I mean, for instance, if you go for a networking event, most people begin to warm up to you and they know, oh, the kind of job you do, where you work, blah, blah, blah. And so a lot of times people tend to tie their personality to their work. Oh, if you're a tech person, oh yeah, I'm in tech, blah blah blah. If you're doing something that's not necessarily a professional job, people tend to shy away from talking about it. I listened to one podcast by, I said what I said, I will never forget. Jola and FK, God help those two. Anyways, there was this podcast that they had someone that works as, there was something that they called it, but basically the person works as a mortuary attendant, something like that. And it was so funny, that episode. But it just got me thinking. I was like, this is this person's job. I mean, people that are dead need to be buried, right? So if everyone shies away from this, who will actually do this, right? And the people that are dead, most times when they were living, in most cases, the honorable people like you and I, do you get? And the truth of the matter is that even both of us, you and I, you guys watching me right now, you're going to go one day, we're both going to pass, right? And we need someone to be there for us and kind of take care of our bodies, blah blah blah, until we are laid to rest, right? But the kind I could really imagine a kind of stigma this guy would have when he approaches people and says, oh yeah, this is what I do, or maybe approaches ladies. This FK Angela asked this guy, how do you ask women out and what do you tell them? It was hilarious, but I could really imagine what that kind of conversation would be like. And if a guy approaches me and tells me he works as a mortuary attendant, I wouldn't even lie. I'm going to think about it. So I'm like, yeah, excuse me. But again, I'm just trying to kind of explain that sometimes what we do might not be a direct reflection of who we are. And we need to understand this. In fact, we need to separate those two things, because who we are helps us to do what we do, you get. But if what we are doing is not really working out the way we want it to work out, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're not good people, or we're not careful people, or we're not good at what we do, you get. Sometimes things happen, and sometimes it could even be the factors that are in your environment. Maybe it could be your colleagues that are making work difficult for you, or maybe your boss or whoever making work difficult for you. It could even be the economy, especially now that in Germany, I don't even understand what is happening in the job market. It's crazy. Germany is trying to bring a lot of people in to work, but companies are laying people off. It's just making make sense. Anyways, we're going to talk about that in a different video. Anyways, so yeah, learn to separate your personality from your work. They are two independent things, and they should not kind of clash together. It will help you so much to, deal with errors, to help you deal with mistakes, and you don't internalize them and feel like, oh yeah, it's me. It's not you, it's the work. Secondly, have everything written down, especially everything important. I'll give an example. On TikTok, I hear people say this thing: keep records, have everything written down. It never really made sense to me, right? Until I was in a situation where it was like, he said, she said, and they said, okay, so what's the evidence? I kept looking for email thread or, a document somewhere that it was written that this is what this was about, And I began to get the message of what all those TikTok girls were talking about. Make sure you have things written down, especially things that are important, that you think somebody in the future or you would need in the future. So things happen all the time. Employees leave, new employees come in. You might leave, you might need to onboard someone else. When you have all of these things written down somewhere, it's easy for you to go back. So it's not like, and you cannot really trust your memory. I tell you, in some cases, you might think this was exactly what happened, or this was what they said, but you might not be 100% sure. Only way you can prove this is if you have it written down somewhere. And yeah, and speaking of writing these things written down somewhere, if for instance, maybe an employee, or maybe I don't know what the situation is at your place of work, but I'm just going to say from my own perspective. If for instance, I have an instruction maybe to change stuff in someone's contract, or maybe to make an amendment in someone's contract, if you tell me, or maybe if the manager tells me that, oh yeah, do this, do this, okay, I've heard you, sir, ma, can you write us an email? Sir, ma, can the manager please approve via the email thread? The manager might have approved to you via on Slack or maybe verbally. I was not there. Even if I was, I have forgotten. So please, dears, write it as an email. Respond to it as an email. If you don't want to respond, tag them. If they do not say anything and they're trying to ignore blah, 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 don't work on that, because you might be like, oh yeah, I'm working on blah, blah, blah. It will affect you in the end, because when next thing they'll be like, who approved this? Oh, he said, she said, when did she say this? And you don't have the receipts. Learn from my mistake. I'm not saying that this has happened to me a lot of times, but I've been in situations where I just could not bring out the receipts, and then I had to forfeit, whatever it was that I was going to ask for, or maybe talk about, whatever. It's always good to have these serious, important conversations written down somewhere. And even when you're making like changes to documents, or maybe making changes to policies or whatever, always write why you're making this change, who told you to make this change, this kind of things, so that in the future, 2, 3, 4 years from now, even when if you're working in the company, you can always look back, oh, I made this change because of so and so reason. It's always important. Speaking of having everything in a written form, you also need to track, right? So you might write it down somewhere, but if you don't keep track of it, you still lose it, right? And this I'm currently practicing during my onboarding. I know in my course of work, there are a lot of documents that are important that I will need for work, or a lot of tools, resources, blah 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 I need for work. I have a separate sheet where I track all these links. During your onboarding process, a lot of information will be thrown at you. A lot of information will be thrown at you. The only way you can keep track of all these things is if you have a document where one person say, oh, you're going to use this document for blah blah blah, carry that link and keep it somewhere. They might say it's on the drive, blah blah, but when you need it, it would be a bit difficult going to go through every single document, or every single document like in the drive, to search for this link. But if you have it somewhere, and some links you would need or you will use more often than others, so if you have it somewhere, it just makes your life a whole lot easier. You can just easily go pick it up and then work on it. So that's it for that tip. Another thing that really helped me a lot was as regards time, planning my time, giving time to anything. So in the past, the way I was used to working was that when I have a task, I focus on that one task. I have like 5 tasks to complete this week. I use one day to focus on that one task, and then the other day focus on another task, and so on and so forth. It kind of worked, but it wasn't the most efficient. And so the new tip that I have, and what I'm practicing right now, is I give time to the different tasks that I have that week based on their priority. I know that some of these tasks are reoccurring, while some of them are, specific projects you're working on at certain times, depending on the quarter in the company. So in situations like this, what I now do is, in my calendar, I schedule, say, maybe 1 hour or 2 hours to work on this particular thing. And at the end, even if it means setting a timer, at the end of the second hour, or at the end of that time period that I specified for this, I will leave that task and work on something else. Maybe work on the second task, or on the third task. So the idea is not to spend so much of your 20, or of course you don't work 24 hours a day, but your 8 hours a day work, you don't have to spend all the time working on this particular thing. You might have this task completed on this day, but then the rest of the task suffers, because let's say for instance, maybe you need to present a report on this thing, but because you spend so much time working on one thing, you have very little time to spend on the rest, and all of them you need to submit a deadline, say next week, right? So my point is, schedule, do the tasks in bits, and then all of them should have like the same collective progress. I hope that makes sense to you. It makes sense to me, because I learned the hard way. I hope it actually makes sense to you. Next is about learning. The truth of the matter is, most of the jobs you're going to get or you're going to do, you probably just know the basics, probably the theory. You don't know so much about it. And the only way you can grow, this is my own personal experience, the only way you can grow and become better at your job and become better at your tasks is learning. Resources. You might have the information on how to do this right now. If you're working in a country like Germany, or even I think this applies to every kind of work. No matter what you do, policies change, the way people do things change, people upgrade, people get better at stuff. And as they get better at stuff, there are better ways of, taking care of a task that you're used to taking care of. So it's always important for you not to get stuck in that one thing. Oh, this is how it's done here, and this is how it has always been done. You'll be shocked. In Germany, for instance, a lot of things change. And in my line of work, I did a lot of things with employees, immigrants, and stuff like that. Now that we have a lot of changes in the immigration rules, I'm not going to be stuck on, oh, this is how we've always done it in 2023, or sorry, how this is how we've always done it in 2022, blah 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 blah. Believe you me, the things that were done in 2022 are no longer the way they were done in 2023, especially when it comes to visas and relocations and stuff like that. I mean, now we have the requirements for an EU blue card has changed. I need to update myself with that. And speaking of, I'm going to make a new video on the immigration changes that are happening in Germany and how it affects you as an immigrant. So if you fall into this category, just in fact subscribe to this channel right now so that I can get tips and I can get updated on news and topics like this in Germany. Okay, let's continue. Let's continue. So you always need to update your knowledge to trends, what's happening, what's the best practice, and so on and so forth in your line of work. Don't think, because I know this, that's how it's always going to be. No. And there are various ways you can update your knowledge. You can ask questions on Google. I'll talk about this later, but check Google. Use Google. I don't know. Sometimes we talk about Google a lot, but in some cases we don't know how to search for things on Google. I am still learning how to search for things properly on Google. And one thing that I've realized is that the results that I search for in my location is different from what is given in a different location. For an example, if I'm looking for the policies or the legal requirements of hiring an employee based in Italy, from a browser that is based in Italy, I don't know, it gives me a different result. I'm still trying to figure it out. Maybe when I do, I might make a video on that. But yeah, I think sometimes you need to kind of change your search location in order to get like very candid information on Google. But yeah, use Google. Another way too is to go on all these events. Some of them can be online, some of them can be face to face, in person. Go on all these networking events. You get to learn, or not just networking per se, but events that have to do with your line of work. You learn best practices from other companies, other people that do the kind of things that you do, but in a separate environment. You learn a lot of things from there. You even get to meet people. I mean, I like to see myself as partially extroverted. I'm extroverted on the internet, but offline I don't know. I don't know. I think it just depends on the vibe. And I also know that sometimes I have to recharge my social battery. So I'm not like a very huge fan of going to events like this, but I'm currently learning. And I also realize that it really depends on the people and it depends on the environment. And also, I mean, environments and stuff and people, you might not necessarily change, but what you can actually kind of control is your mindset. So when I go to some of these events, I'm like, okay, I'm here for this, and this is what I'm going to do. And it doesn't matter whatever it is that's happening in my environment, I'm going to be here, I'm going to have a good time. And sometimes I actually end up having a very good time. So yeah, we can practice that. Okay. Another tip is to learn to understand things deeply. Now, a lot of times you just have surface level knowledge on certain things. Oh, this is what is happening here, but you don't understand why it's this way. You don't understand who made it this way. You don't understand the thought process as to why it's this way. Personally, I believe when you learn to understand things a little bit more deeper, you get to maybe even make a change there, maybe improve the process, or it makes sense to you. You can also remember the process. Actually, this was something that one of my bosses taught me, one of my ex-bosses taught me. She's such a dear. And she says, you need to learn to understand things deeply. Because I was just like, bam, 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 bam. And she's like, no. You cannot be doing things like bam, 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 like so fast all the time. Sometimes just calm down. Try to understand what you're doing. Why is it this way? Why is it that way? And it has really helped. I'm still, learning all of these things. I'm not coming here to tell you, I'm an expert at deep learning. Some days I lose it. And some days I find out that it really helps me to really get to the bottom of things. So the next thing is, when it comes to knowledge, you don't know everything. You, in fact, I don't think you're supposed to know everything. That is why you're here. That's why you're learning. That's why you're growing. Right? So it's okay not to know everything. Don't beat yourself up if maybe there are certain things that you don't understand, and you've been explained to a lot of times, you still don't get it. It's fine. Just be, I don't know, be patient with yourself, truly, because some people are just very bad at explaining things, to be very honest. Some people are very bad at explaining things, and it might not even be you. And in some cases, you don't know this thing because you didn't focus so much. So try to work on your focus as well. When you're maybe in the middle of something and you're trying to learn something, try to be present. Try not to let your mind drift. Even if it drifts, try to bring it back as much as possible. I know that now with social media, our attention span is like any little thing like this, our mind just, I don't know how to even explain, like your attention just moves very fast, right? But try as much as possible to keep your attention together. Try as much as possible to be present. You get? Anyways, what I was trying to talk about is that if you don't know something, it's fine. However, you need to know the thing. All right. And one very effective, less dramatic way to know, again, Google stuff. A lot of things that we can find on the internet, we tend to ask first, because most times you get the answers faster. But you don't want to be the person that's always asking questions all the time, especially for straightforward things that can be found on the internet. You don't want to be that person. So if you're in a working environment, what I would advise, first of all, Google that. And if you don't have your answers from Google, or there are specific things that you actually cannot Google. For instance, if you want to find out where this file is stored in your computer, in your company's drive, you can ask Google that, right? In those kind of situations, try to make your own very personal investigation. Try to find and search for this thing. If you now can't find it, then you ask questions. Let asking questions be, I don't know, the last thing. But this advice is, take it with a pinch of salt, right? Because in some cases, asking questions just give you the answers very fast, right? So you don't waste so much time trying to find things out. But personally, I believe in finding things out, because when you make your research, you end up knowing more than you were even bargaining for. You might end up finding more interesting things, and one day it helps you in your work. Who knows? So yeah, Google things. Oh, another thing too is to do your best work as much as you can. I know that every day we're not 100%. Some days we are 50, some days we are 70, some days we are 100. But as much as you can, do your best work. Don't always be in a hurry. As I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself too, because I don't like spending so much time on a task. But now I'm trying to, again, in the process of learning to go deeper into things, I'm learning to also be better at doing certain things. So learn to do your best work. If you're not feeling up to it, just don't come at all, or take a sick leave or whatever. But as much as you can, even if it's one task that you focus on that day, try to do it to your best, the best of your ability. If you feel like, oh, this thing is not done properly enough, don't submit yet. If you have some time, don't submit yet. And submit when you're sure of the quality of your work you're doing. Another thing too is, if you're in the midst of doing something, like you're in the middle of doing something, maybe the task you want to do involves talking to somebody else or kind of giving a report. If you're not done, or if you're not sure, don't even bring up the subjects to the person you're talking to. Let me give an example. Let's say, for instance, I need to give a report on, I don't know, employee data, number of employees that we have in the company for this month. I need to give a report on that. And I am not done with the report. I haven't, finished calculating or checking the number of people that we have in the company. And then maybe I see my boss walking past and she needs this document. Or my supervisor walking past and she needs this document. I will not, in fact, I shouldn't go and tell her, oh yeah, we have 5 employees, but I'm not really sure. I'll send you the report later. Don't do that. Ah, God, don't do that. It's very easy. I don't know for other people. I do it a lot. Most times I'm like, incomplete task. And I'm going to be like, oh yeah, so I'm working on this, and I'll let you know later. Don't do it. Because it makes you come off as, I don't know, unserious. Like, if you're not done, don't bring it up. And then they might ask you a question, and you're like, oh, I don't know. Don't do it. Don't do it. Another thing is to trust your intuition. The way intuition helps you in your personal life, it helps you as well too. If something smells fishy, it feels fishy, it looks fishy, it's most likely fishy. Trust your intuition. If you feel, oh, this thing is off, talk about it, report it, escalate it, bring it up to higher management or something. But just don't keep quiet and don't assume they know. Even if they know, let it come from you because it's your line of work, right? So it doesn't feel like, oh, she didn't even notice this. You knew and you escalated it. Escalate the problem as much as possible. Trust your intuition. Another thing too is when it comes to maybe we're trying to create some kind of policy, something that gives people direction or gives people better information on a particular thing. It depends. In my own case, it's really policies or instructions, guidelines, or stuff like that, right? If you're trying to do this, just assume that people don't know what's going on in your head, right? So you might have all of this information, but doesn't necessarily mean that somebody else can hack into your brain, right? So when you try to put this, do it in a way that even the most foolish person would be able to read your work and understand. I mean, sometimes we use some ambiguous words that we think people know, but we don't know. One very sweet tip is to ask AI. Just ask AI, please simplify this for me. Make it easy to understand. And usually AI does that. And, it makes it a lot more easier for people to understand you. Now, it does not mean that some people are just coconut heads. They just don't understand. No matter how, even if you write it in A, B, C, D, the simplest of ways, they will just not get it. Or sometimes they don't get it because it's you that wrote it. I don't know. There are people like that, but I don't know the tip for that one. But what I'm trying to say is that when you're making documents that people would use within the company, try to make it as understandable as possible. Oh yeah, something too that is important that I think people should know is that truly and honestly, I know that everyone is in a battle for themselves. Everyone is looking out for themselves. But people actually have good intentions towards you. That people actually want to see you win. That people actually want to see you grow. Don't come into a workplace with the mentality that, oh yeah, everyone is fighting me and everyone is against me and is me, that kind of a thing. It puts you on a defensive place. And sometimes people just genuinely want to find out more about stuff without necessarily trying to harm you, and you just feel like it's me. Maybe it's not. Maybe they just need more information. And to be honest, not everyone has bad intentions about you. That leads me to my next point. Some people actually don't like you. You need to have the knowledge and the wisdom to recognize when people don't like you and act accordingly. These kind of people, when you realize someone does not like you, personally what I do is, again, depends on the proximity of my work to the person. If this person is someone that I work directly with, like I have to see you every day, I have to work with you every day, and I realize you don't like me, my dear, I'll try my best to be very professional with you. Keep it light, no kiki kaka, no, you don't do that here. Keep it very light, keep it moving. Say the information, and this kind of people I always document. If you say documenting, put it in the email thread, documenting. If it comes to someone that does not really work so well with you, or maybe someone that you don't, maybe because of your work, you might just work with them once in a month, or you don't work often with them, so to speak, right? Avoid them as much as possible. Because at the end of the day, you're not here to fight battles. You're here to do your job and go home in peace. Let's not be looking for things that are not looking for us. Let's not be fighting wars. Life is hard as it is. We don't need additional level of, you get what I mean? You don't do that. Another thing too is when you see an opportunity at work, take it. An opportunity to shine, opportunity to do something, an opportunity to, I don't know, just be there. Take it, because you never really know. It could, you might just be like, oh yeah, I don't know if I can do this, blah 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 blah. Believe me, you can. In some cases, they just appreciate you for even trying. In some cases, they just like, oh wow, this is nice. They get. So you don't know if you don't try. So just give it a try. To be very honest, just give it a try. It's not that deep. But if you think, this thing would really be a huge embarrassment, I cannot do this, then don't do. Before you do, when you become the office clown, So please use wisdom. I think at the end of the day, to summarize everything, just use wisdom and act accordingly. When you see an opportunity, just take it. You never can tell what to come out of it. If it's a good chat, just take it. If it's a learning if it's a learning, I don't know, how do you say, something that you learn from, it's a lesson. You learn from it. But don't shy away from things. Even if it's not your line of work, don't shy away from it. Just do it. Be nice while you're doing it. Don't complain. Another thing too is sometimes this work 9 to 5 of a thing gets really difficult, and you might have some difficulty, or some level of stress at work. I mean, stress is normal. The only thing is that don't allow it to overwhelm you. And some situations that are not typically stressful, but we just let ourselves just get drained and whatever with that. One thing that I have seen that has helped a lot is to be in a kind of empowering environment. Be in an environment that empowers you, that believes in you, that it's not toxic. Now, this advice is very hard, especially if maybe in your current state it's not as energetic or as toxic free as you expect it to be, or as you want it to be. The truth of the matter is, sometimes we cannot influence our environment, but sometimes we can create this little safe spaces for us. And you don't have to confine in your colleagues. You don't have to do that, because some people really cannot be trusted. They might use this information against you. But if you have like friends, healthy friendships, where these people believe in you, that these people can, be there for you mentally and emotionally, please use them. Confide in them, talk to them, spend time with them, because what this does is that it gives you an energy boost, right? So if from Monday to Friday you are fighting for life at work, by the time it comes to Saturday, or even after work, weekends, you spend time with people that actually care about you, people that actually love you, it gives you this energy boost to go again. You get. So my point is just to be with people that love you. And if you don't have this kind of people, believe in yourself. See, let me tell you something. You got the job. You have started doing the job. Don't think it was a mistake. Don't think it was a coincidence. You got this job because they saw something in you, and that's why you got the job. Now, all you have to do is do the job, right? Now, it might be a bit difficult to do, but trust me, you're not the only one struggling. Every other person is, like, a lot of people are struggling with you. It's only who is caught in the act of struggling. I say, oh yeah, I'm struggling, right? So my point is, you're actually better than you think you are. You're actually doing amazing than you think you are. So believe in yourself. And I mean, believing in yourself is one thing, but I think the ultimate of it all is believing in God's plan for your life, basically. Because you might not have all the source, you might not have all the information, you might not have everything, but if you know that God has your back, know that God has your back, and that's it. It doesn't matter how things play out, it doesn't matter what the circumstances end up being at the end of the day. You get. And I think last but not least, I was going to talk about this in a separate video actually, but the truth of the matter is, there are some surroundings. It's still boiled down to this whole surrounding topic. There are some places that you'll be that will just be stressing the hell out of you. No matter what you do, it's not appreciated, it's not noticed, it's not recognized. Leave if you have the opportunity. Like, if you can, leave. It's not very easy to tell people just to leave their work, especially if it's tied to their visas or it's tied to your residence permits. But the truth of the matter is, you cannot waste your time and your energy in an environment that constantly drains you. What it does is that at some point you begin to internalize these things, and you begin to become that person. You begin to become that overbearing person, that person that is very difficult to talk to, or is always angry, or is always triggered. You don't want to be that person. Life, see, you're young. It doesn't matter your age. Even if you're 65, you're young, and life is too important to not be cherished and not to believe. It feels as if we're just here to exist and pay bills, but that is not the truth of the matter. You need to live life. You need to be present. When it will hit you. It might be too late. So now I'm telling you, so if you don't get anything from this information, if you don't get anything from this entire video, right, get this one thing. If you're in an environment that constantly drains you, now I'm talking particularly about the corporate environment, right? But you can also apply this to life, your friendships, your relationships. I know that sometimes things get difficult and you can fight through things, but if you're in an environment that constantly drains you, you need to shift your focus. Just, if you can, leave. If you can, leave. Trust me, there are companies and work settings that are more accommodating, and they are more energizing and less draining. I say this because there are situations where I've been in where it's like, I've done everything, but this one person just keeps complaining. It's like, and the truth of the matter is, you begin to resent work, but you cannot resent because that's what pays your bills, literally. So try to separate yourself from this kind of environment. You don't need to. It's not worth it. Believe me, it's not worth it. Especially knowing that there are better things out there. Sometimes people be like, oh yeah, I don't want to go. What if I don't make it to my probation period? You've not even gone. You're in an environment that is 100% toxic. You don't even know what your chances will be. Like, if it's going to be a 50% success or 50% fail in your new environment. Why don't you give yourself that chance? Do you get? Give yourself that chance. Go to a new environment. See what it's like there. You might even be thriving. Yeah, now you're here fighting for your life. We don't do that. But all in all, I hope I was able to, speak some sense into you, kind of remind you of some of the things that we tend to push aside or tend to neglect when it comes to corporate life, especially in Europe, in Germany. Personally, I'm based in Germany, so this is like my own experience. It could be different from yours. And to be quite honest, bad as bad. we're going to be here, we're going to try, we're going to be better as our jobs, we're going to grow in our career paths. And I want to say, comment below in my comment section. Just put comments what your experiences have been like at work. What are some tips that you think some of us can learn from you? I want this to be like a very engaging stuff, because I know that now this part of adulthood, life be lifing, right? And for some of us that are corporate girlies, 9-to-5 people, because we not jump on we not jump on social media influencer thing on time. That's why we are here, going to the office all the time. Anyways. Anyways, for me, I like my corporate job, to be honest. So I feel like it gives me some level of, I can't explain it, but I know I'm going to be doing 9-to-5 for a while. I like it here, and some people, this is kind of our reality. So what we can do is to make it much more accommodating and much more beneficial for us. So just put in the comment section some tips that you've done or things that you've experienced, so that we can learn from each other. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like seeing my face on your For You page or on your timeline, just join the family, subscribe. I'll try to be more frequent on YouTube. The reason why I've not been here is because, again, 9-to-5, it can be very draining, especially making videos is not the issue. Editing it and uploading it, just very time consuming. So I'm trying my best, and I hope you all can understand that we content creators, we are human beings too. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm grateful for this platform. I'm grateful for all of you guys. I'm grateful for every single one of you guys that has been here with me in this journey. And you'll also be here as I grow bigger and better and I begin to make cash dollars on this internet. Anyways, I'll see you guys in my next video. And yeah, ciao.